Jesus walks on water. The sun had dipped below the horizon, leaving the sky painted in soft shades of orange and purple. It had been a miraculous day. Jesus had just fed over 5,000 people with only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. The disciples were still buzzing with amazement as they gathered the leftover baskets, each one overflowing with fragments of bread and fish. As the crowd dispersed, Jesus turned to his disciples and said, "Get into the boat and go ahead of me to the other side of the lake. I'll stay here and dismiss the people." The disciples obeyed, boarding their small wooden boat. The Sea of Galilee stretched out before them, its surface calm and serene in the twilight. Jesus watched them push off from the shore, then climbed up a nearby mountain to pray. Alone under the night sky, he poured out his heart to his Father. Meanwhile, out on the lake, the disciples' journey took a frightening turn. The wind began to howl, and waves started crashing against the sides of their boat. What had been a peaceful voyage turned into a battle against the elements. The disciples rowed with all their might, their muscles straining as they fought to keep the boat steady. As the hours dragged on, the storm grew fiercer. The boat tossed and turned, water splashing over the sides. The men, experienced fishermen among them, were terrified. They had faced storms before, but this one felt relentless. By the 4th watch of the night, somewhere between 3 and 6 a.m., the disciples were exhausted. The boat was far from shore, and their spirits were sinking as fast as the waves rose. Then, through the mist and spray, they saw something that made their hearts freeze. A figure was walking toward them, on the water. The disciples clutched one another, their eyes wide with fear. "It's a ghost!" they cried, their voices trembling. But the figure kept coming closer, undisturbed by the waves. Then a voice, familiar and calm, called out over the storm, "Take courage! It is I. Don't be afraid." The disciples gasped. It was Jesus, walking on the water as if it were solid ground. Peter, ever the bold one, couldn't contain himself. "Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you on the water," he shouted. Jesus nodded, a smile playing on his lips. "Come." Without hesitation, Peter climbed over the side of the boat. His feet touched the water, and to his astonishment, he didn't sink. The surface held him up as he took one step, then another. His heart raced with exhilaration as he walked toward Jesus, the wind whipping through his hair. But then, Peter made the mistake of looking around. The waves were enormous, and the wind roared in his ears. Fear replaced faith in his heart, and in that instant, he began to sink. "Lord, save me!" he cried, his arms flailing. Immediately, Jesus reached out and grabbed Peter's hand. His grip was firm and unshakable. "You of little faith," Jesus said gently, pulling Peter up. "Why did you doubt?" With Peter safely in his grasp, Jesus led him back to the boat. As soon as they climbed aboard, the wind ceased. The sea calmed, its surface once again as smooth as glass. The disciples were awestruck. They fell to their knees, overwhelmed by what they had witnessed. "Truly, you are the Son of God," they whispered in reverence, their voices filled with awe. As the boat drifted peacefully across the now still lake, the disciples reflected on what had just happened. The storm, the fear, Peter's boldness, his faltering, and Jesus' unwavering presence. It was a moment they would never forget. This story teaches us a powerful lesson. When we keep our eyes on Jesus, even the storms of life can't overcome us. But when we let doubt and fear take hold, we begin to sink. Thankfully, Jesus is always there, ready to reach out his hand and lift us up when we call on him. That night on the Sea of Galilee became more than a miracle. It became a testament to the power of faith and the unfailing love of Jesus. The disciples would carry this memory in their hearts, a reminder that with Jesus, nothing is impossible, not even walking on water. The end.